Good morning. This morning we are here to do something that is exceedingly important to me, and that is to unveil our One City Action Plan. And I assume everybody has a copy at this stage. It provides in one document a comprehensive, measurable, transparent strategy for positioning the District of Columbia to be the best city we can possibly be, and for many years into the future. As I've said before, given the extraordinary change that we're experiencing as a city, we have before us a chance to make, to remake, reinvent, whatever terms you would choose to use, this city for the next generation and perhaps generations thereafter. It's an opportunity to harness change and to better create a city, a sustainable, equitable city within the vision of what we've talked about in terms of being one city. One city isn't about favoring one group over another. It is about building a city for everyone. So we have to seize this opportunity that is before us and chart the course for a new future that we want for the District of Columbia. The One City Action Plan brings together in one document the concrete goals, strategies, and action steps that my administration is working on to be able to make the vision real of one city. And I want to take the opportunity now. There's a lot of people, many people, literally hundreds if not thousands who've contributed to this effort. But I want to single out two people, and that is Sheila Bunn and Stephanie Bland, who really have done a fantastic job in helping us pull together all the information that we have assembled in this document, distilled and presented in a hopefully succinct but clear fashion in terms of how we move forward. The goals and strategies and actions combine commitments that I made when I ran for this office, ideas that I've laid out in two State of the District addresses, and literally months upon months of feedback garnered from community meetings, one-on-one interactions with constituents and community leaders, and of course the incredibly valuable feedback that we got from the summit that was conducted back in February, where there were around 2,000 people who actually were there and another several hundred who were online participating in the summit. The plan provides a roadmap with specific strategies and measurable outcomes in literally dozens of important areas of life for our city. There are three overarching goals, and you will see those in the document: growing and diversifying the district's economy, educating and preparing our workforce for the new economy, and then thirdly, of course, improving the quality of life for everyone here in the city. Under each goal, the plan lists strategies and actions we will take to achieve them, all directly linked to the One City vision. The plan, of course, is available online at onecityactionplan.dc.gov, and it allows district residents to easily identify the major strategies being pursued by our administration and explains how we link them to the One City vision. It also details concrete actions already being taken or planned to realize each goal, as well as the key indicators that we are going to pursue. I would invite you to look in the back of the book, which you are welcome to use. I suggest you keep this with you every day. And you can call us or go online, and we'll help you update this. And the first person to get their book completed will be admitted free to the biweekly press briefing. In any event, the deputy mayors and other cabinet members who work closely with me in formulating this plan will, of course, have a major role in overseeing its implementation. And you're going to hear from them today. I'm going to ask, first of all, Deputy Mayor for Planning and Economic Development, Victor Hoskins, to provide an overview of the plan's goal to grow and diversify our economy. Then Deputy Mayor for Health and Human Services, Bibi Otero, along with Deputy Mayor Deshawn Wright, will talk about the goal to educate and prepare our workforce for the new economy. And then finally, I will come back and provide an overview of the plan's third goal, improving the quality of life for all district residents. So with that having been said, why don't we now hear from Deputy Mayor Hoskins.
Thank you, Mayor Gray. Today we continue to build upon great progress made over the last 18 months, and we establish our path forward for the future. These tasks include our continued effort to diversify the D.C. economy. As we all know, this is necessary due to the looming reductions in spending by the federal government, and less than 60% of all district land is taxable. We have partnered with our local universities to develop an economic development strategy. This 5-year economic development strategy will provide a roadmap for continuous growth and ultimately create jobs for district residents. The mayor and I have traveled to Asia to strengthen the business relationship between China and the District of Columbia as we renew and expand our sister city agreement between the district and Beijing. We put a new focus on economic development. The trip was also used to attract foreign direct investment for district projects and to create additional business opportunities for small and medium-sized businesses through Export DC. With DSLBD, we saw the launch of Export DC. This program is designed to increase the number of DC small businesses that export in order to grow the dollar value of export from district businesses and coordinate trade missions for qualified district-based businesses. We continue to attract, nurture, and grow new technology and innovative sectors. This helps us to expand the district's tax base and creates the jobs and economic growth needed for our more diversified local economy. We have invested significant time and effort in growing the tech sector. Just last week, we were at Living Social, where the mayor signed into law the legislation that will keep Living Social here in the district and commits them to hiring the majority of district residents in their growing flagship company. We continue to work with City Council to make the city more attractive to district residents to invest in district technology businesses and to reduce the cost of doing business for high technology companies. These business incentives will help companies start, grow, and thrive in the district. We seek to create a new innovation hub at St. Elizabeth's. This effort represents an enormous opportunity to jumpstart job creation and employment east of the Anacostia River. The hub is envisioned as an integrated center of research, education, training, and entrepreneurship, and a place for technology transfer for private sector commercial activities. We are also working with technology companies on developing a plan to relocate them to the East Campus. Lastly, we continue to pursue real estate development across the city. We are working with partners to produce new retail and mixed-use developments by providing highly valued infrastructure, cultural, recreational, and retail amenities, which promote growth and opportunities in the district neighborhoods. As of July 2012, there are 17 projects under construction in nearly every ward of the city, creating 4,600 temporary construction jobs and 7,300 permanent jobs, totaling $1.8 billion of private investment. These projects include a variety of retail and market rate and affordable housing, office, institutional, and community uses. Many projects are currently in our pipeline, and several will break ground in 2013. I will close by inviting all of you to join us at the Lincoln Theater this Friday, July 27th, from 12 to 2 p.m., where my team and I will be presenting 9 RFPs that will be issued by our agency between August and December of this year. As you can see, we have been busy, and we want to continue to be busy. We look forward to creating additional opportunities for our residents so that we can see even greater participation for residents in the district and its continued renaissance. Thank you.
Thank you, Victor. Good morning. I'm Bibi Otero, Deputy Mayor for Health and Human Services. The second goal in the One City Action Plan, as the mayor said, we are really focused on preparing for the next generation and preparing the city for the next generation. And as Victor just spoke, there is a great deal going on in terms of bringing new businesses, and we have a tremendous responsibility to make sure that we prepare the workforce for this new economy. So the second goal is to educate and prepare the workforce for the new economy. And I'll focus on the first strategy, which is ensuring greater success for infants and toddlers. And I know most of you will go and say, well, infants and toddlers, workforce development, what does that have to do? But preparing our children for success in their future academic endeavors begins at the very early years. Thus, the mayor's early success framework, which was launched in April of 2012, is a key component of the One City Action Plan. With the framework, the mayor has challenged the district agencies and communities to work effectively to meet outcomes that ensure that all children develop in enriched environments, that their families are linked to opportunities and resources that strengthen their role as parents, that professionals who work with young children have the knowledge, the skills, and the supports to work effectively with and on behalf of children and families, and that communities are safe places where resources are available to help children thrive. This plan commits us to focus to 4 areas that will ensure that we meet the challenge stated in the mayor's early success framework. The first is to reach more children diagnosed with developmental delays earlier. In order to accomplish that, we will be changing the eligibility criteria that determines children's access to services. This will result in more children being served earlier and assuring that less children move into special education later in their academic careers. Assuring that children are ready for kindergarten. The universal pre-K strategy initiated by Mayor Gray when he chaired the City Council was the major first step towards achieving this goal. We are now committed to implementation of a developmentally appropriate assessment that will help us know if children, once they are going through these programs, meet the academic and developmental benchmarks that show that they are ready for school. Third, ensure that programs serving our youngest children are meeting high-level quality standards, whether those be child care, home visitation, health programs, etc. Through the use of a quality rating and improvement system, we're committed to ensuring that no less than 50% of all the programs serving young children meet the highest national standards. And finally, starting with FY13, with the FY13 budget, the mayor committed to providing additional resources to ensure available child care slots for our youngest children. Children birth to 3 are in their most significant development years. Our investment in ensuring that children are born healthy, have access to the best health, nutrition, and developmental services will in the end pay huge dividends in closing our achievement gap. Deputy Mayor Wright will expand on the additional 2 strategies that make up this goal. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Otero. The second strategy under the goal of educating and preparing the workforce for the new economy is to educate the youth for the economy of tomorrow. Once our children are prepared properly to advance to the next level of education, they deserve and require a high-quality public school that will adequately prepare them for the real world. Our initiatives and actions to achieve this goal and strategy include the establishment of Raise DC, which is a partnership that we recently announced designed to drive improvements and outcomes for children and youth along the continuum from cradle to career. We're going to modernize all of our public school buildings. The district is continuing its implementation of our comprehensive schools modernization initiative that has invested $2 million thus far in our school facilities, and it has an targeted additional investment of $1.5 billion over the next 6 years to modernize many more of our elementary, middle, and high schools. We're going to develop strategies to create quality academic seats in DC public schools and DC public charter schools. As you all are aware, under the mayor's leadership, my office identified the top 10 neighborhoods with the highest need for quality seats. We are engaging those communities directly to examine the academic and programmatic needs within these neighborhoods, and we'll issue a report in late fall that will recommend strategies to establish even more quality seats in these targeted environments. Lastly, we're going to increase our capacity to serve special needs students. My office has worked with the Office Office of the State Superintendent of Education, our Public Charter School Board, and DCPS to establish strategies and goals to increase the capacity of our district public schools to serve our students with special needs and to reduce our enrollment in non-publics. As you all know, in the mayor's very first day of the district address, he established a very high priority of reducing that number by 50% in his first term. Also included in the One City Action Plan are the goals outlined in DC Public Schools Strategic Plan, a capital commitment, which Chancellor Henderson shared with us a few months ago, that include a focus on increasing our four-year high school graduation rates, increasing student proficiency in math and reading, improving performance in our 40 lowest performing schools, and increasing enrollment in DC Public Schools over the next 5 years. Finally, our third strategy in the One City Action Plan is to align residents' job skills with our growing economy to lower unemployment. Our investments in education and workforce development that prepare and match job seekers with available living wage jobs has the potential to create long-term benefits such as increasing individual income and spending power, which also directly has a benefit to our district businesses. Actions and initiatives to support this strategy will include establishing performance benchmarks for job training providers, improving quality and focus of our job training programs, forming a youth employment change network as a part of our Raise DC structure, provide wraparound services for our disconnected youth, move TANF recipients to independence, expand and use of our local on-the-job training initiative, and lastly, matching district residents with jobs through our First Source Law and the One City, One Hire program. I'll now turn it over to Mayor Gray to discuss the final component of the One City Action Plan, which is improving the quality of life for all.
Thank you very much to Deputy Mayors Hoskins, Otero, and Wright. As I've said before, the final goal of the One City Action Plan is to improve the quality of life for all residents of the city. An optimal quality of life for our city will be realized only when all residents of the city, in every ward and every neighborhood, feel safe, have proper housing, enjoy quality recreational opportunities and transportation choices, and also have access to health care, fresh food, and other important amenities. Creating strategies that produce these life necessities will provide a better lifestyle for residents currently living in the district and make the District of Columbia a more attractive place to those who are considering living here and those who in fact already are moving here. To do that, we must ensure that all neighborhoods are safe. And the plan calls for specific actions and outcomes in the areas of recruiting, training, and retaining public safety personnel like firefighters, EMS technicians, and police officers. It also calls for other public safety measures and anti-bullying strategies as well. I want to mention, too, that just yesterday we took possession of the new consolidated lab, which has been built to really, I think, advance us into the forefront of being able to work on coordinated public safety strategies. We will be hiring a director, I guess, in a few weeks for that position to head the consolidated lab. But the medical examiner's office, we will be able to have greater capacity to do our own evidence analysis and technical work and a lot of other features as well beginning October 1st. I think we all know, too, that improved quality of life also depends on ready access to quality health care. And the plan calls for improving the availability of health care and health insurance, reducing infant mortality even further. We're down to 8 at this stage. I started working on infant mortality 20 years ago when I was the director of the Department of Human Services, and we had one of the worst infant mortality rates in the nation at the time. It was north of 20. We now are within 2 percentage points of being at the national average, and there actually are some areas of the city, some wards, including Ward 7, which is actually close to the national average at this stage, and we're going to continue to work on that. And of course, we're going to continue to improve treatment options and community support for those who are HIV positive or already have full-blown AIDS. I might mention that we have opened the new Anacostia Clinic. That'd be one of the takeaways, I guess, in terms of what we've done. We just had the groundbreaking for the new Parkside Health Clinic, and we are at the threshold of having the groundbreaking for the Community of Hope Clinic, which is on South Capitol Street. All three of those healthcare clinics are east of the river, where we know that healthcare outcomes have been some of the most dismal in the city. And what we are moving towards is creating a real primary care healthcare system that will be rooted in our clinic system in particular. The plan also calls for boosting access to healthy, high-quality, sustainable foods across our city, improving nutrition programs, and ensuring that every neighborhood and every resident has access to first-rate parks and recreation facilities and libraries. And some of you may know that we established for the 13 budget a project to invest probably about $9 or $10 million in upgrading playgrounds. We're not sure how many playgrounds it will permit us to do, but they will be done across the city, and it could be as many as 15 or 20 playgrounds that get completely redone, and then the city will try to come back in the next fiscal year to finish all the playgrounds across the city. I think we all know that an inherent aspect of quality of life issues is affordable housing and safeguarding the ability of people from all walks of life to continue living in our city. And this, of course, is an issue that residents have stressed to us again and again, and we've gathered a lot of information for this plan on that, and we heard a lot about it during the summit that was conducted in February. The action plan calls for several specific goals around increasing affordable housing, including development of a comprehensive housing strategy that addresses issues around supply, funding, regulatory hurdles, collaboration with community partners, and the roles of our housing agencies, of which we have three: the Housing Authority, the Housing Finance Agency, and of course the Department of Housing and Community Development. The sustainability and improvement of transportation options also are integral parts of ensuring a high quality of life in the district, and the action plan includes goals and strategies related to multiple areas of sustainability and transport across the city. And then finally, the plan calls for measurable outcomes in improving our government's accountability and providing transparent feedback, as well as monitoring mechanisms such as grade.dc.gov, which we talked about yesterday. As I said before, the entire plan is available on the web at onecityactionplan.dc.gov, where it's laid out in much greater detail. And of course, you have the plan. Those of you who are in this room have a copy of it in your hands. There are specific measurable indicators, which I think, you know, the old adage is what gets measured gets done, and we want to be able to be held accountable for those outcomes as a part of this effort. So with that having been said, we'll take questions now on the One City Action Plan. Mark and then Tim.
In the spirit of measurable outcomes, Deputy Mayor Hoskins was very specific. It was very impressive of how many jobs have been created with the 17 projects. I'd like to know if he also measures how many of those jobs are DC residents.
Well, I can start the answer. I can tell you of the One City, One Hire program, we now have almost 3,700 people who've been hired. Is that right, Lisa? We're 703 partners, and every one of those jobs has gone to a person who lives in the District of Columbia. And frankly, is one of the reasons why, and I'm sure you followed this, one of the reasons why the unemployment rate in the District of Columbia from the time we started, it was 11.2%. The last data we have is down to 9.1% now, the lowest in 3 years. Now I'll give Deputy Mayor Hoskins an opportunity now to respond further.
Of the 17 projects, you measure one very impressive, 1.8 billion. It would be more impressive if 50% of those jobs were DC residents. Do you measure, of all the jobs you listed, how many are DC residents besides the One City?
Yes, and right now, the ones that are under construction, we do measure those, and it depends on the project. And the range varies from 25 to 54%, depending on the project. And I can give you specific data for specific projects, and I would love to share that with you.
What is the aggregate total of the job? You said how many jobs?
It averages construction jobs, because the permanent jobs, I mean, for example, if you go into permanent jobs like the Hamilton, they've hired over 50% DC residents. I mean, I can go project by project. It's kind of difficult to, you know, throw those. I'd love to share that with you, definitely. Right after this, we can go up to my office.
Before you do that, Mark, let me make sure I know what you want, and we'll try to respond in writing to your question. Because the distinction he made is an important one between construction jobs, which are temporary, and then the permanent jobs that are created once the projects are finished. So what specifically do you want?
Well, both data.
Okay, well, some of those projects are still under construction.
Are construction jobs of DC residents, and how many of the jobs that are permanent are DC residents?
Okay, and again, remember that these folks have to enter into first source agreements that require commitments to hire a specific number of DC residents, and that then is tracked and monitored by the Department of Employment Services.
And just one statistical, Deputy Mayor Wright mentioned increase the four-year graduation rate. What is the four-year graduation rate?
So it is 53%, and the chancellor's goal is for us to get to at least 75% of ninth graders who graduate within 4 years. So measuring the 4-year cohort, the national average is typically around 55%.
Probably, Mark, even lower for urban.
And much lower for much urban environments, absolutely.
How do you compare to other urban areas? How do you compare to Baltimore?
Baltimore, we are typically in line with other urban cities, much not to our satisfaction, obviously.
I think the last thing he said is the most important piece. You know, if we were better than every other urban area in the nation with 53%, that is unacceptable. We can't have a situation where we find it acceptable to say that it's okay for 47% of our children who start in DCPS in the 9th grade not to graduate 4 years later. By the way, the city-wide graduation rate, when you factor in the charters, is 59%, so they have a higher graduation rate right now. We are having tomorrow the rollout of our test scores for CAS, and we would invite you all to come. We're going to be at Neville Thomas at 3:30 tomorrow to come and hear about that. Tim, you were next.
Are those comprehensive? A lot of the stuff in this plan are some of the things that your administration has already been working on, you're already started budgeting for. Why did you feel important to put it all into one plan after, it's been 18 months since you've been in office, put in this plan now? And also, since some of this stuff is very long-term or mid-term, do you intend to be here to try to force it into action, even if that takes running for a second term?
Well, I think any plan that has any visionary underpinning at all, Tim, has to look well into the future. Anything that has just short-term objectives really, to me, is not a plan. I think everywhere I've been, if you look at every organization I've been the director of, the ARC, the Covenant House, the Department of Human Services, we have tried to look well down the road. Even when I was at DHS, we were looking at infant mortality, knowing that it was going to take years to get that done. And frankly, now it's great to be able to look back, 20 years ago and say, this is where we were, this is where we are now. So a plan is done to try to have a vision for the city, and whomever may be in leadership, I think people would pick this up and look at it, and I don't know how they would deviate from, I don't know how they would say that these aren't the issues that are important for the future of the city. Now, yes, we've rolled out a number of things. There are things in here that we are, of course, already working on, but we wanted to have it compiled in one place so that people can go to one document and know what the vision is, we know what the mission is, and then what the goals and objectives are in order to be able to realize that, and then what the strategies are in order to get there. So people can go, I see you, Alan. People can go on to the web, onto the website, access one document. They can go to this book, access one document. So the idea is to make this convenient, to make it transparent, to make it comprehensible, to make it visionary, to make it accountable. So I think you will see a number of things that we're working on. You'll see some initiatives in here that we've established over the last 18 months. But again, it's putting it all in one place so we have one place to go to look at where it is that we're heading.
Well, why shouldn't council members or residents take it seriously unless you're going to give a definitive statement that you will be here, maybe if it takes even a second term, to try to push as much of this through as possible? What makes that?
I don't know why you would say anybody wouldn't take seriously creating more affordable housing, or working on the HIV/AIDS epidemic in the District of Columbia, or improving educational outcomes, or growing and diversifying our workforce. Those are things that anybody, any leader to me, should embrace, but they've never been articulated in that kind of comprehensive or, frankly, in my opinion, coherent way. Alan, and then Tom.
One of your goals is to increase the participation of CVEs.
A little louder, please.
One of his goals is to increase the
You can move your
participation
seat.
of CVEs, Tom Sherwood.
Not getting any closer.
You know, the more I look into the CVE program, the more I find contractors who are wildly unhappy with how it works. I posted a story last night where a CVE said he's been partnered with one of the biggest city contractors over the last several years, and he says basically this joint venture that he partnered with was just a shell by which this out-of-state company could get the city contracts and then push the contractor aside. From what I'm hearing from other local businesses, this is not an isolated occurrence. And you know, so if you're going to increase the number of CVEs, if they're not legitimate CVEs, what's the point?
Well, I don't think we intend to have, you know, CBEs that are not legitimate, Alan. And we know there have been concerns about this program because we have shared them. I'm going to ask the deputy mayor to address that, but that certainly is one of the assignments that you know, Harold Pettigrew has with the Department of you know, Small Local Business Development. I had a conversation yesterday out in Ward 7. By the way, I didn't see too many of you in Ward 7 yesterday. You missed a wonderful event, the rededication of Nanny Helen Burrs Avenue. It looks great. Yeah, but you weren't. So that you weren't. Yeah. no, you aren't. In any event, I had a conversation there with a gentleman who was advocating for me to have, you know, have him be able to have all the benefits of the CBE program. In fact, he's located in Maryland. I said, there's no way we're going to do that. You want to have the benefits of the CBE program, then move into the District of Columbia. And he says to me, well, I think I'm going to move back in. Well, you let us know when you move back in, and we'll talk to you at that point.
But that's the problem, is a lot of contractors saying guys in Maryland targeting.
We hear you, and actually we have been dealing with that internally. The mayor has sent an order to Harold Pettigrew to review the current policies and evaluate them and to make them stronger, because that has been a problem. And we absolutely agree with you, and we're in the same position that you are. It is despicable for somebody to put together a shell company and to run it and play like they're a DC company.
Will you talk after?
You mentioned something about a website. Can people monitor progress on this plan in real time?
Yes, I think they can. Yeah, we're going to do that. That's one of the features about this. And, you know, it obviously, you know, dovetails, you know, nicely, too, with our grade.dc.gov effort as well. We hope that, we actually hope, and we recognize that a lot of people are not going to pick up this book, you know, in toto and read through it. But we're going to try to, in our own, you know, in our own roadshow ways, if you will, you know, with community meetings and whatnot, we're going to ask the people behind me and those in the cabinet to be able to talk about this plan or talk about discrete components of it that would be specifically germane, you know, to the groups that they're talking to. And I think the more we talk about it and stay with this, to go back to Tim's question earlier, that's why it's good to have it in one document. We can use this then as a basis for presentations, conversations, questions, or whatever the case may be. But again, the answer is yes. The intent is to have real-time, you know, tracking of this. Ben?
Can you explain why it took 18 months to develop this plan, and is that a reasonable amount of time for the public to wait for you to articulate your comprehensive vision for the district?
I think we articulated our comprehensive vision long before this for the city. I think if you go through here, you're going to see some of the things that we've already rolled out. You're going to see some of the things that we are, you know, rolling out as we go forward, some of which emanated from the summit. So it isn't as if, you know, we waited for one point to roll out everything, Ben. This has been a dynamic process and will continue to be a dynamic process. I invite you, and I would welcome your feedback, to go through and look at some of the actions under the strategies, and you will see things where, you know, we'll say, oh, yeah, these guys talked about this before. I wonder where they are on this. You heard the 3 deputy mayors talk about projects that are already underway. You heard them talk about, you know, education. For example, let me go back to what Deputy Mayor Wright talked about, and that was just a few weeks ago, or a couple of months ago, more than that actually, we rolled out the new 5-year plan, you know, for education. But all of that stuff has to fit together in terms of a comprehensive vision, which we have and we've had for some time, and a comprehensive approach to how we achieve all these things. education cannot be, let me put it differently. Education is inextricably tied to workforce development. We have spent a lot of time creating a new workforce development system in the city. We worked on it from day one. Go look at the Department of Employment Services and where it is today, based on what we've done for 16 or 17 months under Lisa Mallory's leadership. Look at the fact that we have created a new Workforce Investment Council with Mike Harold as the chair, and brought together 33, 34 people who weren't even in place. There was no WIC for the most part at that stage. Allison Gerber, who is the director of that operation. Look at what we've done on the workforce development front, and I think you will realize that what we've chronicled here reflects in a number of instances work that we have been doing. Now we've got it all in one place. We also made a promise to people who came to the summit in February that we would take very seriously the input there, and that's reflected in here as well. So I would characterize this as a dynamic process that, at least at this moment in time, is culminating in this document that you have before you that will continue to be a dynamic process. Ms. Brazil and then Alan.
I'd like to ask you about the energy issue. Strategy number 4 is the only place that I've seen so far that you have in which you talk about investing in a sustainable DC. You talk about your plan for, alternate power sources and what have you. But it seems to me that underpinning all of your efforts, whether or not it's economic development or improvements in healthcare or education, is a reliable energy source. And I don't see anything in this plan as regards the issue of PEPCO and a reliable electrical power source. So was that something that was not contemplated? Was the plan was already developed when we had this recent spate of problems with PEPCO? Because it clearly doesn't fit in under strategy number 4, invest in a sustainable DC, but you can't accomplish any of these goals in terms of economic development or child care or education if we don't have a reliable energy source.
Yeah, that's a good point. If you note, if you go through the discussion in this particular section of the plan, it talks about renewable energy, which starts to get at the reliability of energy. You know, we've talked about solar, we've talked about wind, we've talked about a number of things. And some of these we will refer you to, if you wish, we refer you to, for example, our Sustainable DC plan, which goes into this in some detail. The other thing I'll mention is that I'm as concerned as anybody about the reliability of our power in the city. I recently met with, last week, I met with the chairman of PEPCO, Mr. Rigby, and we talked about the issue of undergrounding. We now are creating a task force. I've asked Alan Liu, as our city administrator, to serve as co-chair of that task force. PEPCO has appointed somebody. And when is the first meeting, Alan? Shortly. Let me just put it this way. It is a hugely important issue. I do think it fits in the framework of Strategy 4, and especially when we talk about things like renewable energy. And if you go back to our Sustainable DC plan, which has 9 specific discrete areas that are laid out, I think you'll see even more detail there. As you might imagine, it's hard to put every word in a book like this, and you can see how thick this is at this stage.
Are able to accomplish 100% of your goals in terms of a sustainable DC, you still need to rely upon an electrical power grid in terms of our economy and our neighborhoods and what have you. Can you give some more meat, put more meat on the bones, other than say you've asked your city administrator to sometime in the future be participant in a task force?
Well, sometime in the future happens to be in the next 2 weeks.
He didn't say the next 2 weeks.
I'm saying it.
Okay.
I'm saying it.
Tell him in the next 2 weeks.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
To get the process underway. And one of the things that I discussed with Mr. Rigby was the undergrounding of wires. We have 70% of our capacity now underground. And when you look at the areas that were out in the city, I don't think any of them, or maybe 1 or 2, involved areas that actually have undergrounding of wires. Now, there's wide debate about the cost of it. I've heard costs anywhere from a high of $6 billion down to a low of $1 billion to do this. We know that with a coordinated effort, there are things that we can do to at least save some dollars. For example, we are constantly doing work with the streets, with DDOT. And when we open up those streets, we ought to be able to coordinate with PEPCO to be able to do the undergrounding of wires. That should have been done before now. And it hasn't been done. And that's one of the things that I've put on the table to say that's why we need a coordinated plan.
Mr. Mayor, that begs for a follow-up.
Following up on Ben's question from earlier, you talked about how all the different parts of your plan have been in place for the last 18 months.
No, I didn't say all of them.
Okay, a lot of the parts of your plan have been laid out over the last 18 months. When did you make the decision to bring them all together into this one piece of
months ago. Months ago, yeah, absolutely. We knew if you think about it, you go back to the summit, which I think you were probably there or participated in some form or fashion. We knew then that to be true to the process, we were going to have to reflect this in a document that captured the essence of what people had said and do it in a way that was accountable. And as easy as that sounds to say, it's very difficult to be able to take all of that input, about 2,000 people, and then work with people to distill it down within the framework of the vision for the city, and then a set of goals and objectives and strategies that is something people can get their teeth into. I'm sure you can imagine how hard it was to reduce this down to just 3 goals. But if you had 27 goals, people's eyes would glaze over. So there's been a lot of work that's gone into this, but we made this decision months ago. Wait a minute, Tim. I'm gonna try to get people who haven't said anything yet. Tom.
Mr. Mayor, a lot of these things, I think someone would look at them and say, despite all the earnestness of this press conference, that a lot of it is routine of any government that wants to improve city services. And I would ask you, you just said in a moment ago that one of the goals is to make all neighborhoods safe. Well, what does that mean? It sounds like a campaign comment rather than a governing comment. Is a safe neighborhood no murder?
Comment. I think it means that it means reduce crime. It means that you have a Homeland Security agency, which we have continued to upgrade. The director that we just hired, a couple of months ago, is somebody with enormous experience to be able to coordinate our public safety apparatus. It means that we have a fire and EMS system that is reliable, that we know how long it's taking them to respond, how many situations injuries, for example, have been exacerbated. It frankly also is structuring our own systems, like FMES, to respond to changing conditions. Let me finish. Yeah, okay. But a lot of people don't know, for example, that 85% of the runs made now by FMES are not for fires. They are for emergency management issues. They are for illness or injuries or whatever the case may be. It's also doing what we've done with the applications, on 911 and 311. The latest app that we rolled out, for example, on 911 was to give people an opportunity to put their household information in there, especially around illnesses, so that when they make a call, that information automatically pops up. So, no, Tom, I don't agree with that. That's not a campaign statement. It's a governing statement.
Routine Mayor Anthony Williams made a policy that you couldn't tear up a city street except once, and all the utilities had to put the lines in and sewer lines at the same time so you wouldn't keep tearing up the streets. I just think it's called an action plan, but it seems to me like it's just what government should be doing.
Well, of course government should be doing it. What government should be doing is creating better outcomes for the people who live here. I want to go back to workforce development. Yes, of course it's my job, and that's what we're doing. Go back to workforce development. Look at the things that we have done and continue to do on workforce development. There are those who would argue that was the job of government, but I would take the position that we had a Department of Employment Services that really wasn't getting people jobs. We've changed that. We've changed the image of how we do that. We've changed the vision. We've changed the outcomes. We have a workforce intermediary that we work with the council on developing. There was no workforce intermediary before that.
I'm reporting the story, but for libraries, you say you want to improve libraries. Well, Jenny Cooper, to the best of my knowledge, has been working her butt off for years fixing libraries. So you put it in an action plan to fix libraries. What's new about the library plan that hasn't been in place since she first got the job?
Why do you focus on that? Why don't you focus on the 3 goals? Why don't you focus on things like education? Why don't you focus on things like getting people to work? Those are hugely important, Tom. How can you discount, how can you discount the fact that what we have done has reduced in almost unprecedented ways the level of unemployment in the city by 2.1 percentage points? That is huge. And some of it is structural change. It's bringing about a way we do business. It's not an ephemeral, it's not an episodic, it's not a situational approach. It's changing the way business is done in the District of Columbia. Look at what we've done with technology. That is a huge contribution to changing the economy here in the city.
I'm not doubting the things that you're doing or continuing to do that other mayors may have even started. I'm not doubting that, but some of these things are so routine that you're putting a rosy glow on things which people should expect you to do that you said you do when you were running for mayor. So it just seems, that's why it seems political.
It is an effort to say to people, here are the things that we talked about we were going to do, and here are the things that we are going to continue to do and roll out. Nobody talked about the technology issue when we were running, Tom. That was something that we have developed and developed and developed over the last 18 months. I don't want to I've given you an answer as best I can, okay?
Was working here for previous mayors, changing all of the people.
That's
Some
not
of the
the
people
same
went
thing.
to the.
That is not the same thing, Tom.
I'm just saying this is not Genesis that we're talking about here.
Wait a minute.
We're in the middle of the movement.
You cannot say that what went on in Octo is the same thing as the focus that we have placed on technology. We are bringing technology firms to the District of Columbia. We are creating jobs. It's one thing to get the government better equipped to be able to be 21st century in terms of its technological approach. It's yet another thing to bring firms here. We've attracted firms here that routinely would not come to the city or have moved out of the city. Look at the bill we just did. Who did that before? That was a bill that we did to keep living social here in the city. It is now a prototype for the future. The Technology Enhancement Act, which is before the council right now, nobody has done that before. So I would say that an action plan for the city would take some of the things that you would term as routine and some of the avant-garde things and blend them together to advance the vision for the city. Wait a minute, Tim, there are people who haven't had a chance yet. Bruce?
Mr. Mayor, just to pick up on that, how committed are you to this plan? Because as Tom says, there have been other plans. And should citizens see this plan to the end in another 18 months? If it takes a second term, are you envisioning the second term to complete this plan? They've seen a lot of plans in this town.
I am a native Washingtonian. I have been in this city all my life. I am not going to stand up and put something out in front of people that I am not committed to. And that's why we tried to put a piece in here that says, hold us accountable. These are not general statements that are made. These are very specific statements that are made. The people behind me and the people in our administration who are sitting out there know what they're going to be held accountable for. So this is the plan that we expect to continue to implement.
You can deliver on this plan. If it takes another term, you're prepared to deliver on this plan.
I'm putting a document out here that says we intend to deliver on this plan. I would not put it, it's disingenuous to put something in front of people that we have no intent of dealing with.
Before, I got to go back to PEPCO, though.
Seen what before?
Well, they've seen plans.
Of course. I'll call it something else. What would be a nice term that doesn't sound like plan? The future. This is the future of the District of Columbia.
Back, follow-up question, Mr. Mayor, back to PEPCO. You say that you're now talking seriously to PEPCO officials about putting wires underground. How are they responding? The city's streets have been torn up for years. Files was just put in throughout the city, and nobody talking about putting wires under the ground. PEPCO seems to have said to residents all along, it's not our fault, it's the weather, we'll just trim the trees, that's the plan, and hope for the best. Are you trying to tell us that there's been a game changer, installed in these talks, that we're really seriously looking at putting the wires underground now?
Well, I want to thank you for using my term that I used for 3 weeks, and that is we need a game changer in the District of Columbia. We do need a game changer, and obviously trimming trees is not, that has not adequately done the job, and other efforts, as well-intended as they may have been, they have not brought the level of reliability to power in the city that we need. So my conversations with Mr. Rigby were specifically around how do we create more reliability and specifically the undergrounding of wires.
That the city has given PEPCO a free pass and other jurisdictions have been a lot tougher. Did you ask him to put the wires underground or did you tell him to put the wires underground? Can you do that?
I don't want to. I think Mr. Rigby and I need to stand up before you all together and talk about this, which I would be happy to do. You all covered me during this storm. Did I sound like I was giving them a free pass? Did I sound like that to you, Bruce?
Are you asking?
I'm asking you a question, all right? Did I sound like I was giving anybody a free pass? I saw some of your coverage of that. And some of you described me as angry, which I was. Some of you described me as impatient, which I was. It is time to have a game changer. And a game changer does not rest with trimming trees.
Talking to the residents of the city, are they going to see those wires underground?
You know what? It's not completely up to me, but I'm going to do everything I can on behalf of the residents of the District of Columbia to bring better reliability to power in the District of Columbia. And what's been done thus far, definitely there's more that needs to be done. Mark?
Could I follow up on the PEPCO task force? Can you tell us what it's going to look like? You said PEPCO and Mr. Liu are going to be on it. Will there be citizens on it? Who else will be on it? And what will they be tasked with doing?
We're going to be sitting down with PEPCO and some of the members of our cabinet to go over it. We have some preliminary list of those various cabinet members who would be part of this task force, and so it's somewhat embryonic, but it's also something that's that we're moving forward with. And I guess in the next few days we'd be meeting with PEPCO at least to go over how we're going to structure this thing. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I mean, I think it's stakeholders. It's really all those that are impacted and those who can help us facilitate this.
Focused with coming up with an unbiased number on what it would really cost and mean to put
it is that, and also we're looking at not just the mayor mentioned the range of $1 billion to $6 billion, and much of that is the way the approach was, the scope. There's also at least we're going to look at targeted underground installations. Where the areas where we've had the most disruptions and power outages, possibly doing that. But the other thing to understand is that many of the infrastructure actually, is connected into systems that are outside of this district line. So it isn't just so much that it's inside the district. We have we establish a dialogue or task force. We're going to have to also interface with other jurisdictions, so we can coordinate some of the, any major improvements or capital investments.
Task force as well?
Or in some capacity, we would have to be able to interface with them,
So this is going to be more than just talk?
I don't do that, guys, I don't just do talk, that's not me,
I think you all know Alan Liu well enough to know that he is not one who countenances talk very well. And neither are we, Bruce. Come on, that's just unnecessarily provocative, okay?
I don't think so at all.
Of course they're frustrated.
If anything, it's understated.
Of course they're frustrated. And how long have we had power problems in the District of Columbia? For a really long time. We're trying to forthrightly develop this, to address it. We are trying to forthrightly address unemployment in ways that haven't been addressed heretofore. We're trying to forthrightly address sustainability in ways that have not been addressed heretofore. We're trying to forthrightly address a number of issues. When we talk about, let me give you a problem, just to go back to Tom Sherwood's comment. How long have we talked about changing the way kids in special education are educated? Spending millions and millions of dollars. I bet you every one of you out here has covered 10 stories on that issue. Have you covered the recent story? The recent story is that when we started, the budget was $160 million for private tuition for kids in special education. This year, we're on course to spend what? 110. It will have been brought down by $50 million because I said in March of 2011, we were going to reduce by half the number of kids who were being in non-public tuition placements. That's not talk, Bruce. Look at the data. The baseline data then were 2,200 kids in non-public tuition. Today, there are around 1,600. We are halfway there to the goal that was established. That's not talk. That's results. Yes.
2,200 to 1,600?
It was 2,200 when we started. We're down to 1,600 now.
And those students are now in...
Me. Mayor Vincent Gray, the guy who was sworn in January 2nd, 2011. Why? Because I stood up and said that's what we were going to do.
Public schools here, or they are out of the system?
It's three different things. And if you want to hear the answer, I'll give you the answer. If anybody wants to talk about services to children with disabilities, I'll be happy to do that. But one is moving people out on the back end. On the front end, wait a minute. That means that kids, age out.
What?
Okay, and they go into work or other programs. But what has happened over the years is that on the front end, you had an equal number or more kids who were coming in the system. We have now put in place early childhood education programs, and we put in place assessment and diagnostic programs that, if you look at them, they are reducing the number of kids who are coming into the system in the first place. Because when you heard them talk about raising the threshold for how we assess these kids, that's to be able to get a handle on the potential developmental delays or developmental disabilities these kids have when they are 2, 3, or 4 years old. Many of those can be not only ameliorated, they can be eliminated, and they don't wind up in special education or with an IEP in the first place. And then you focus on those kids who may be 9, 10, 11, 12 years old, and you build capacity. How have we done that? Go back to my fiscal year 12 budget. We put millions of dollars in the fiscal year 12 budget to build capacity in the DCPS and the charter schools to bring those kids into public education. This was done with intentionality. We knew what we were doing when we put that out there. That wasn't a conversation, Bruce. That was a commitment, and we are fulfilling that commitment. And there are so many other things in this document that do exactly the same thing. We said we were going to get people back to work. You heard that before too, haven't you? You all heard that before? Have we gotten people back to work? And I'll tell you something else you haven't focused on. Look at what we've done with the unemployment system in the District of Columbia. We brought integrity and common sense to how that is administered. There were people who were double dipping, people who had jobs and were collecting unemployment. We've dealt with those folks. There were over 100, is that right, Lisa? Look at the fact that we have 703 partners who are working with us to get people to work. We just opened a new place. Not we didn't, but the city just opened a new place across the street, Del Frisco's. Del Frisco's is a part of our One City, One Hire program. They committed to hire, what, 50 people over there, Lisa? 50 people. And we've worked with them to help them do that. And now they are going to be in City Center, which everybody knows about City Center. I think they've committed to, what, 300? 300 people to be hired in the new establishment that they're going to be open because it will be so much larger. Those are concrete results. You know, and if anybody thinks having a job is routine, it may be routine for some, but it's not routine for others. And when you have an 11.2% unemployment rate that is now 9.1%, not measured by us, but measured by the Bureau of Labor Statistics, which is outside the District of Columbia, I put us up against any city. Frankly, go ask some other cities, do they have a plan like this? Do they have a commitment like this? I don't know whether they do or they don't, because at the end of the day, what's important to me, Bruce, is what did we do for the people of the District of Columbia? We went out. How many of you all were with us a couple Fridays ago when we went out and took on a problem that everybody in the city knew existed? And Philip Pinnell has been advocating for us to deal with it, and I went out with him and spent hours on a Friday afternoon going through establishments on Martin Luther King Avenue that were selling drug paraphernalia. There are laws that prohibit that, and people selling it in the open. Topps paper. What was that other one? What was it? I can't think of it. Yes, yeah, you know, Alan. Would the police search that man? Bamboo, that's what it was. Bamboo, yeah. You knew the answer. Why didn't you say it? And pipes out in the open. How do we tolerate that? And we are not tolerating that. I had Nick Majette with me. I had the police with me. We went through everybody that day. There were 10 out of those 12 establishments that were selling drug paraphernalia. And we warned them that day. And now folks are going to go back from Nick's shop who will walk in and ask for this, ask for that, and if they are sold that, they're going to be fined $2,000 on the spot. People who want to have legitimate businesses, of course we want to support them. People that don't have legitimate business outcomes in their mind, they are going to go. Now that problem has been around for ages. All of you probably reported on it. But we took it on, and we're going to solve it.
A follow-up question. You mentioned my name a couple of times. Can I follow up? Can I follow up?
Well, I'll come back to you. Let me make sure I've gotten. We'll go for a second round.
Can we move to general questions now?
Okay. Well, let me. Tim had his hand. Let me do the 3 follow-ups. Okay, Tim.
Well, first with your sustainability plan, you know, when you were ran for mayor in 2010, I think you won a lot of support by sort of portraying the image that you were going to be a more responsive to concerns about gentrification and about whether some people felt pushed out of the city due to the cost of housing and the overall sense that they can't afford to live here or they're not going to want it here. I don't see a lot in this plan that really addresses those concerns. You have some 900 units of affordable housing, which really is not much. I mean, this plan does not seem to have.
Well, we have brought on, by the way, since January of 2011, we have brought on 1,100 units of affordable housing, and I think there's another 1,100 in the pipeline at this stage. So factor that in there too, Tim. Also, recall that I appointed a comprehensive housing strategy, affordable housing strategy task force that is being chaired by Harry Sewell, who is one of the foremost experts in the city on housing finance, as well as Debbie Ratner, who heads for a city and obviously is a sterling organization. They have been working now for 6 months. I think they're in the last couple of months of the work that they're doing on this effort. You know as well as I do how difficult this is because so much of it is market-driven. We have a lot of tools in this city. I was the person who did the inclusionary zoning effort on the council along with other council members because it sat basically, languishing for a couple of years. Inclusionary zoning requires that people who are developing housing with a certain number of units and above make 8 to 10% of that housing affordable. We are moving on new communities. Look at what's happening with new communities. On that list of RFPs, Barry Farm. Barry Farm. Barry Farm has been there for decades. Decades. The RFP is going out now to deal with Barry Farm. What you all don't probably know is that we have moved about 30 or 35 families out of Barry Farm into Sheridan. We have moved about 30 to 35 families out of Barry Farm into Matthews Terrace. And we've created a critical mass now of vacancies that can actually start the process. One of those 9, that would be 9, right? One of those 9 RFPs that Victor mentioned is Barry Farm. Going out. Come Friday and listen to what will be talked about. And frankly, I was in a meeting with some potential investors this morning, and when I walked into the room, what was on the screen was the discussion of the Barry Farm RFP. It starts to fulfill promises we've made to people for decent, affordable housing. So there's a lot that's been done, Tim. I appreciate you asking the question to give me a chance to give a more in-depth answer.
If I could just follow up with that. I mean, it's clear from this press conference that you are frustrated that some of your administration's achievements or perceived achievements are not being conveyed either to the media or the public.
You can resolve that.
How do you plan to address this issue as this investigation continues to hang over? And what steps do you plan to take, if anything, to try to improve your approval rating, which is, I believe, the lowest of any mayor in the history of the district of Columbus?
Well, all we can do is continue to do the job. And that's what we're intending to do. These are concrete action items that we have put together. These are concrete things that we are working on, and we will continue to work on them, Tim. And of course, you obviously have a role in what gets reported, not me. Oh, wait. I said we would take 2 more people. We said we would take Ms. Brazil. Yes, and you're the last one, Bruce.
Can I follow up on this issue of this PEPCO task force? When it came up, and you turned to Mr. Liu as regards when they were meeting, Mr. Liu sort of, you couldn't see behind you, but sort of shrugged his shoulders and nothing was planned for it. But Mr. Mayor, PEPCO and energy reliability is one of the major issues of concerns to people. Are the meetings of this task force going to be open? Are the meetings people going to be able to know when they're going to be meeting and what the agenda is? And the issue of the membership. You and your administration nominated Betty Noel which most consumers in the District of Columbia would consider the premier consumer advocate in the area of energy. Now, her nomination didn't go forward in the council for a variety of reasons, including the fact that Yvette Alexander did not move it out of her committee. But you also have 2 vacancies on the nominations that you can make to the Public Service Commission. So while you, during the last few weeks, have been, talking about PEPCO and the need for PEPCO to step up to the plate and do a better job, citizens have a concern as regards your administration not exactly being on the forefront or a strong advocate or standing up to PEPCO in many ways, letting PEPCO guide the district's policy and appointments to the Public Service Commission. So I go back to the question, the meetings of this task force, how will we know about it? Will the agenda be known? Will citizens be able to attend? And the issue of membership, are you going to be soliciting membership beyond the cabinet? And what stakeholders are you looking at? Because if you're talking about stakeholders, you certainly haven't been very aggressive in terms of getting people appointed to the Public Service Commission, where you have 2 vacancies sitting on the...
See, I don't agree with what you just said. Okay. Well, let me respond to it with specificity. First of all, you acknowledge that I put forth the name of Betty Noel. It was not my fault that she was not. I advanced it not once, but twice, and it didn't move out of the council. Just a minute.
For her vote.
You're absolutely wrong about that. We were very aggressive about pursuing this. And first of all, why would I go back and nominate her the second time if I wasn't committed to having her on the Public Service Commission? And what you perhaps have missed is that I have nominated another person, and the hearing has already been held on her, Joanne Dottie Ford, who's already been had a hearing. We hope that the council will vote on her when when they come back from recess. I wish they had voted before they went out on recess. So, had they acted on the 2 nominations that I put forth, you would have a full Public Service Commission at this stage, and a Public Service Commission of experienced people who are there to advocate on behalf of consumers. Now, I'll ask Alan. Alan has the lead on this, and we're not the only ones involved. This is not a government task force. It's a joint effort. So I think we need to work with our partners, especially at PEPCO, to make sure we're agreed on how this will unfold, and we'll be happy. I'll ask him to give you the information when it's done. It's a joint task force. It's a joint task force with PEPCO and...
If you say that you want the meetings to be open, the meetings will be open.
We will give you an answer, okay?
Okay, I'd like an answer from Mr. Liu.
I'm not going to give you one now. We want to make sure they have an opportunity to put this together as they go forward. No, I'm not saying that. Bruce, you have the last question.
Question is this, the people that voted for you and supported you probably want this kind of plan that you threw out here. This is what they were expecting from you, when they voted for you. But I mean, we're ignoring the elephant in the room if we don't ask and you don't address. Their concern right now is, do you plan to be around to see this plan through? And how long will it take you to see this plan through?
I think this is a multi-year plan. Otherwise, it's not a plan if it's not multi-year. And I have moved aggressively on some of these things. And we've gotten some things done faster than people ever would have expected them to be done. And some of the issues, excuse me for being repetitive, but some of the issues we've taken on, nobody took on, ever. That, again, there may be a position here that this is government's business, but government's business also is taking on the things that have been chronically outstanding and have not been effectively addressed. I'm going to continue to work on this as aggressively and as quickly as we possibly can, Bruce. I wish we could get them all done by next week. This is a game changer that the deputy mayor is. When have you all ever had a session, a pre-solicitation session? Have you ever been to one of those? No, because there isn't one. Let me finish my thought before you cut me off. There has never been such a thing. I invite you all to come on Friday at 12 noon to hear about these projects. A lot of these things have been done in seriatim. We're not doing these in seriatim. We're doing them, in parallel at this stage. So I'd love to be able to come back in a year and say, you know what, we've done everything that there is in this book, and now we have a new plan. I want to go back before the citizens at another summit and be able to stand up and say, let's go to the back of the book, let's put it up on the screen or whatever, and let's see what we've actually accomplished. Those are the things that I think people will pay attention to, and they want it done quickly also. We're trying to work on, with DC Water, we're working on a problem in Bloomingdale. And they have a long-term solution of 10 to 13 years. But nobody wants to hear that a flooding problem is going to take 10 to 13 years to be solved. So we have met with, myself, our senior staff, met with the folks at DC Water, and talked about what can be done now to address that question. So for me, this is a plan that has a compelling time quality associated with it, and we will work as quickly as we can. I've got another. Yeah.
Gasoline prices. I asked you the last time we had an open press conference about the role of the Attorney General to investigate Joe Mammal, who has 77% on a barely or rarely listened to radio show. He was asked this question last Friday. He said our investigation is complete. I wouldn't say that our investigation is completely over, and there might be some public action, and you will find out about the results. Shouldn't the public have...
Did you say barely listen to radio show? I didn't know you were still on the radio.
No, it's not. It's somebody else. Why isn't the Attorney General publish that investigation as he's gone? He implies that he will be a friend of the court of a class action suit.
He's right behind him.
Yeah, and aren't you concerned that gasoline prices are 40 cents more in the district than they are in Maryland because one person has a monopoly over gas prices in terms of the jobbers?
Well, let me let the Attorney General address that, because I think that's one of the things they've looked at in part in their investigation.
I'm happy to, Mr. Mayor. I don't think you quoted me correctly, Mr. Plotkin. We are looking very carefully at the gasoline prices. We have conducted a significant study. We have gotten outside assistance on this, and we're going to continue to monitor the situation. The issue is devotion of resources, and the question of whether it's appropriate to devote the resources, the limited resources that we have, to a long-term, protracted litigation. For the time being, I've decided that it is not appropriate to commit that kind of resource to this issue. We are devoting our resources to bringing into the district substantial amounts of money that are owed to the district, such as the online hotel tax situation, such as the double dipping that the mayor has mentioned, and other cases that we are pursuing to bring money back to the district that is owed to the district. With respect to what our investigation has discovered, a lot of the facts that you allege are not quite accurate. The situation is that since the acquisition of these large amounts of stations, which are worrisome, when we look at the prices in the district, we found that the prices have not gone up in the district in most neighborhoods. There is one segment of the city in which prices have gone up as a result of or following the acquisition of a large number of stations. With respect to those, the people in that area, we have found that there is elasticity. They are able to either go outside the district or in other parts of the district to get lower prices. And so we have to decide whether we're going to devote our resources. We have contacted, and we're in contact with private lawyers who are thinking about and pursuing a potential class action on behalf of those residents where the prices have increased. We think that it's likely that they will bring such a lawsuit. If they do bring such a lawsuit, we will advise the court of what our findings are and what our conclusions are and what our recommendations are for relief for for that class of citizens. And with respect to the notion of publishing it, the issue is this is still an investigation. It's not appropriate to publish results of investigations when they are not completed. There is a time and place for it, and when and if, as I expect, there will be court action, that will be the time that we will produce that.
The citizen.
No, it's very likely, absolutely. If there is a lawsuit brought by private plaintiffs and it relates to the prices of gasoline in the district and the structure there's no doubt that we will be submitting an amicus brief to the court to establish, to lay out what we have found and what we recommend. Thank you.
Sam, I'm going to let you have the last one because you didn't get a chance to ask anything. You let these guys dominate you in the room like that, Sam.
You have to pay in D.C. now to have a visit with somebody in jail via this video thing. Is it true that? My understanding is I got an email, a press release about this today that to visit somebody in the D.C. jail now, it costs money.
Can I answer that? You know, this is a prima facie case of how that if something is told enough times, it gets completely misconstrued. I think I'm going to try to answer the question and tell you why I think it got misconstrued. First of all, of course it does not cost anything to visit. We have a new video visitation center, which has been placed in the D.C. General Building. And by the way, if you come out to the conference that we had on it, you would know the answer to this. I don't think Channel 7 was there for that. We did a complete tour. But in there are two machines where people who want to can put money into those machines designated for their family member or loved one or whatever to be able to spend in the commissary. There is no charge to visit somebody in the jail. This is a far more convenient and a nice accomplishment that we're very proud of. People used to have to stand outside the jail no matter what the weather conditions were, stand in line. They may have stood there for hours and still not get to have a visit, you know, with their family member or their friend or whoever because of a lockdown or whatever. That is all being eliminated now with the video visitation conference center. Yes, absolutely. And what you get is an opportunity to make an appointment. You have to show up 15 minutes before. Is that right, Paul? 15 minutes before. And you go in and say, why don't you go out there and do some filming? It's a nice video shot for you all to do on TV. And this is why when we do these briefings to try to let people know what's going on. And we see you all as a conduit for being able to convey that information. And frankly, it's a shame that the story would be people have to go to visit their family or loved ones and whatnot in the jail. That's absolutely inaccurate. It's fallacious. So go see the two machines. They can put money into those machines, and they become available to the person who is incarcerated to be able to use in the commissary. And frankly, it will cut down on, the trafficking that's gone on in jail because people have had, inappropriate contact in the past. And for those who don't know, who haven't been in the jail, you still, even if you had this old system, there still would be a big plexiglass wall between you and the person you're visiting, and you'd have to use a phone. Now you sit down at a station, and I think there were 50 of them? 50 stations there, that the person comes up on the screen, they see you, you see them, you have a phone, and you have a conversation, and it can be up to a 45-minute visit. Excuse me?
Recorded by the prison?
I don't know, is it recorded?
It's subject.
Subject to?
Like the current system now is subject to recording. So not every visit will be recorded, but if there's an indication and we are placing notice that it is subject to recording. Yes.
Can it be face-to-face or is it required to be video?
It's video. It's required to be video. That is correct. Everything will be done by video.
But there was still a wall between people anyway.
Right. And so the other enhancement that we talked about is right now it will be at at D.C. General Hospital. In the not too distant future, it will be at certain libraries where people can go right to the library to make the connection. In not too distant future, they'll be able to hook it up from their home computers or their laptops. The other advantage that it will do, it will actually allow attorneys to have greater access to their clients. So now attorneys have to go into the jail 1, 2 o'clock in the morning to talk about a status date that has been continued. Very shortly, that attorney will be able to hook up online, get their client by video chat, and relay that information. It will help to facilitate criminal justice in the city as well as to get more people in to visit their loved ones. So we really think it's a good opportunity for all.
So great opportunity for all. We're done. Thank you all very much.